Ever since I can remember as a little girl, I used to have this dream or night terror, I guess you can call it, that this older woman would come visit me. Never talked to me or did anything. She always just looked at me. She didn't scare me. However, when I was in my teens, things changed for the worst. On my 17th birthday, she appeared in my dream and told me that my boyfriend at the time was cheating on me, which I found out to be true the next day. I thought maybe it was just a coincidence. Months after, she appeared again and told me that one of my relatives would become very ill and die. And again, it turned into a reality. And while I warned my whole family about it, they seemed to think I was just desperate for attention or something. After a few more times of seeing her in my dreams, which did come true, and 4 years later, was now engaged and pregnant from my now husband. I told him about her once. He didn't believe in that stuff, so he told me it was just all coincidences and that I should stop overthinking everything. My husband came home from work one night, and I had been sleeping for a few hours when suddenly he sees a silhouette of a woman just standing there still next to me. He walked a little closer and called out my name, thinking it was me, and as he approached me, he noticed that it wasn't me. Let out a loud scream which jolted me out of bed. "What happened?" I asked him. He then proceeded to describe the woman, the same woman that had been following me for years, as my heart almost exploded in fear. I now began to fear for my life and was worried that whoever that woman was would come after us both. I began doing a daily cleanse of my home with sage to take out whatever evil had been in there or within me. One night we were both sleeping and then I feel someone physically on top of me strangling me in a creepy and echoey voice saying, "Isaac is mine." Isaac is what we named our son, who wasn't even born yet at the time. I wish I can tell you that this was all a dream, but I was physically being attacked and I tried to move my body, but it wouldn't let me. I kicked my husband in the leg to try and wake him up, and as soon as he did, the woman was gone. I was able to move and breathe again. The next day, as I was taking a midday nap, she appeared to me once more, but this time in a dream. This time she said, "It's Isaac or it's you." I woke up paranoid as fuck, hoping and praying this was just a dream that wasn't gonna come true. Luckily, my husband's brother-in-law was a shaman who decided to help us out. After 2 hours of prayer and ritual, he told us not to enter the house for 2 days, so we stayed at my sister's house meanwhile. I also did some one-on-one clearing with him to purify my energy, in case there was an attachment of some sort. We got a call from him a couple days later and said it was cleared. He had a long talk with me and explained to me that this person was a jealous, bitter aunt from a few generations ago whom my mother didn't even know of. Apparently, she became very bitter after her miscarriage and an unloyal husband, so she wanted my son. The good news is that she's no longer appearing to me in my dreams anymore. The bad news is I did unfortunately have a miscarriage. The shaman insists that the spirit had something to do with it, but either way, I'm so glad it's over. My mom used to tell me that the women on her side of the family would have this special gift where we can sense or tell something is about to happen before it actually happens. I didn't believe her until one day I realized it for my own. It all began when I was a junior in high school and I was 17 and just started driving. My parents had bought me a car as a gift for maintaining exceptional grades throughout high school up until this point. One night I got this terrible nightmare that I was driving on the freeway and suddenly the car in front of me about 200 yards ahead of me hit a fuel tank truck that turned on the side and exploded in flames on impact. The small car in front of me went up in flames and the driver ran out of the car on fire and stopped in front of my car with her face and skin melting off and begged me to help her. When I woke up, I told my mother about the dream and she told me maybe it was a sign of what's coming ahead. I never believed in that, so I always walked away when she brought it up. As time went on, I was now a senior in high school. My best friend just got her own car and we would go places together after school and on the weekends. Something about her car seemed way too familiar, as if I'd seen it somewhere before. I also noticed that my senior year in high school I had the same nightmare. I had it at least once a week, and as I got closer to graduation, it became more frequent. Exactly 1 month prior to graduation, I was having the same exact nightmare every night. I was officially paranoid, so I decided to talk to my grandmother about it since she was very knowledgeable on dreams. "Your intuition is warning you," she said. "Someone you know is going off very soon." I officially drove back, creeped the fuck out to say the least, until I convinced myself maybe this is not real. Finally, graduation day. My friend and I decided to go downtown after our graduation to celebrate since we both had cars now. We agreed on this seafood buffet near downtown, so we got in our cars and started to head out. She knew where the place was at, so I had to drive behind her and follow her there. And I'm sure by now I think you know where this is headed. As I got in my car, I got this strong feeling like we shouldn't go, but I ignored it. Visions of the dream kept appearing in my mind, but I was just so stoked about graduating and finally moving out that I didn't care about anything else. The more I ignored it, the more clear it became that something was about to happen. That so-called gut feeling I began to have turned into a believer now. We hopped on the freeway and began our 20-minute drive there. Halfway through, I started to get the beginning of the dream. Half a second later, I noticed this isn't the dream. Everything looks and feels exactly as it does in the dream. The freeway, the cars around me, the car in front of me. Wait, the car in front of me is my friend's car, and there's a goddamn fuel truck right next to her. Oh fuck. I quickly realized what was about to happen. I started to scream and cry from the bottom of my lungs. "Please, no, please, please, please." I scrambled for my cell phone to call her and tell her to get the fuck out the way, but as I did that, it was too late, as I witnessed it happening with my own two eyes. For whatever reason, her car hit the fuel truck next to her, which tipped over and exploded into flames on impact on a hot summer asphalt. And please skip this next part if you're sensitive, as it is very disturbing. The last memory of her will forever be deeply embedded in my subconscious mind, as I remember seeing her screaming and crying in her car, stuck, with her skin and face melting off until eventually she collapsed. I broke down in my car with a panic attack and nausea and depression all at once, and I couldn't breathe. She was pronounced dead at the scene, along with 4 others involved in that freak car accident, which I can honestly say, seeing my best friend die right in front of me fucked me up permanently. I mean, it almost felt fake or something, almost like a scene from one of the Final Destination movies, but the dream actually happened. And as much as I hate to talk about it, I still get therapy for this 19 years later to this day. I will never, ever ignore another dream or vision in my life again. And as for my friend, I didn't disclose any information out of privacy reasons and respect for her family, who have to live with that awful, painful memory of her. I had an aunt that was deeply involved with a dark cult of some sort, and being that my family and I were raised in a strong Catholic upbringing, we never really spent much time with her due to our religious conflicts. She was a lonely woman, never got married, never had any kids, and overall just a private person who lived alone in her small mobile home in some lot. One day, due to unfortunate circumstances, she was forced to live with us for a few months, at least until she was able to get back on her feet financially. I was 14 at the time, so my parents always warned me to keep my distance from her and to never ask her questions about her practice. But at the age of 14 years old, the curiosity got the best of me. One night, my parents were out of town and it was just my aunt and I at home. She did her usual, asked me if she needed anything before she went into her room and locked it. I couldn't see anything, but I got close to her door. Close enough to where you can hear what she was saying or doing. I stood there for several minutes and nothing. Suddenly there was this strong feeling that came from the bottom of my heart. I don't know what it was, I can't describe it to you. Maybe it was my sixth sense, intuition, I don't know. I really can't explain it, it just smelled very foul. Followed by some incantations which I could not understand what she was saying. I was officially scared and immediately felt a bad vibe around the house, as if there was 30 angry people looking down at me ready to kill me. From that moment on, I was never curious about what she did again. I never told anybody, I just remember staying away from her. The next morning, my mom yanked my foot and said in a pissed off voice, "You're gonna be late for school." I found that odd, considering it was only 5 in the morning and my mom never wakes me up. I went to her room and asked her why she did it, and she said it wasn't her. I also didn't see it was her, so I just assumed. Something yanked my leg and woke me up, and it wasn't my mom. I wondered if I should have told my parents about it, but felt maybe it was just in my mind since I was tired. From then on, strange things started happening in my house, such as cabinets opening and closing, hearing whispers in my house when there was nobody home, and this foul odor as if someone left something to rot. And most notably, things in my room like my personal belongings all over the floor, when I remember clear as day not leaving them there. One night I was home alone by myself laying in my room, then I heard whispering. I quickly got my Bible to pray the Lord's Prayer. As I started the prayer, the whispers got louder and louder. I felt as if though something was attacking me, and I literally had to run outside of my house and stay there until my parents got home. When my parents arrived, my mom noticed some scratches on me, which I don't remember or even know how I possibly got them. I knew there was something in that house, and I also knew that whatever my aunt was doing was probably the reason. That same night, we all got ready for bed, and I was saying the Lord's Prayer one more time as a blanket of security, or at least to make me feel secure. At 1 or 2 in the morning, I was awakened by the same whispering in my room, and I was shitting myself of what was going to happen next. My 14-year-old self couldn't take it anymore, and I quickly ran as fast as I could to my parents' room and began to pray. We all slept in the living room that night, and I had no other choice but to confess what had happened from the very beginning. They were very upset at my aunt for bringing her practices into our home. They had a talk with my aunt the next morning, and she claims to not know anything as to why these strange things have been happening in the house. Eventually, we had to tell her to leave our house, and every now and then strange things still happen, but it's extremely rare, and nothing like before.